All right.
Hello,
Hey, welcome back.
how you going?
Yeah, how you doing, man?
Yeah, good, good, good. Yeah, my name's Felix. This is Dan. Obviously, we're from Ledger. If you guys don't know, we're here to answer any of the questions that you might have. So pop them in the chat. I can already see uh, your question in there, Tom Khan, as well. But yeah, I think one of the things I always mention, never share your 24 words. Don't sign any transactions you don't trust. I think we'll make it nice and quick today
Hmm.
because yeah, we say it every time. So hopefully they've got the message.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Important message, definitely
yeah,
though. Okay,
exactly.
Felix,
Cool.
you wanna start with the questions?
Yeah. So Tom Khan mentions that hey, they have the following issue. They have sent ZEC, so Zcash, from Binance to their Ledger account. They've received it. I'm assuming that means they can see it on Block Explorer, or but I can not see it. I can only see it on my mobile app, and not on the desktop app. Mobile shows 2 plus, but desktop shows only the previous amount before you sent it. In particular, you've cleared the cache, deleted the account, re-added it, but nothing. I think the first thing that I'd think about is whether the transaction is shielded or not, potentially. That might be the first one that I can think of right off the top of my head. Otherwise, I know that there were some general issues that we were having with Zcash in particular, but it shouldn't be affecting them being able to see the transactions in particular. So shielding is the first thing that I think of. Not sure if you have any. I'm just checking the some of our internal tickets now, but those are the things that I think of. What do you think?
Okay, let me. Sorry, I was reading the chat here. Let me
Oh yeah,
read the questions again. Yeah, I think you covered pretty much what I was gonna say. I think
it's
probably
just about.
shield. Yeah, shielded issue. Um, does the Zec account reinstalled it? I'm just curious, Tom can like are you getting any error message when you send a transaction? Like do you see anything specific on the screen on Ledger Live? Um, yeah, that would be useful if you could just like try again maybe and type down in the chat what you see exactly on the screen when you try to do the transaction or add the account because there are different issues that are affecting Zcash accounts and they all have slightly different workarounds. Some of them, unfortunately, don't have workarounds, but at least we can direct you to some resources that might help you. So yeah, again, if you could share like exactly what's going on, and then we might be able to help.
Cool.
The next question is in French. So someone just got their first Ledger device. Congratulations. And they said that they would probably join the next Q&A. So that's really, really good.
Nice.
We are doing those almost daily now. So if you guys need fast answers to your questions, then this is just the place to do it. We are doing this so you guys don't have to send us an email. You can just pop in the chat and then you'll get your questions answered. And you can ask as many questions as you want. The only thing is we're here for an hour only, so you have to catch us during that time. And yeah, that's it.
All right. So next question came from a Cyrillic name that I definitely won't pronounce, but are there any reseller points where I'm able to purchase Ledger goods in countries under European sanctions? The best I would be able to do is pop a link for the resellers in the chat. I'll actually do that now. Here's the link. And it does have some, because you didn't mention the country, but it does have European countries that are under sanctions in there at the moment that you might be able to check out, and might be able to um, help you with that in particular. One that comes straight to mind would be Russia, and that's definitely I see that on the resellers list at the moment. So hopefully you should be able to check those guys out in particular.
Hmm. Felix, do you have any specific recommendations when buying a device from a reseller in terms of security? And...
Yes. One of the things that we'd be mentioning is that whenever, in any case, right, when you're setting up the device is going to go through, when you're setting it up, a genuine check, especially specifically when you're managing it through Ledger Live. Now, in doing so, it needs to contact our infrastructure to make that to check that the hardware integrity and the software integrity are both have not been tampered with. So this is the way that we get around the idea of if someone had actually gone in and preceded your device or tampered with the device, the Ledger Live will be able to know about it. But the thing there would be that based on the country that may or may not be available, we may or may not be able to contact the infrastructure may not be able to reach us or that instance of Ledger Live. So being that it's based on the apparent location, is just something to keep in mind.
Okay, very good. Also, I just wanted to add, buying from a reseller is also safe. So, those devices, they come from our factory. So there is no difference between a device you get from a reseller and a device you get from Ledger directly. So don't worry about it. In general, when you get the Ledger, just check inside the box. One major red flag would be if you see a recovery phrase, a recovery sheet with words on the sheets and a PIN code, like a little card with a PIN code provided. And when you connect the device, it will ask you for the PIN. So if that happens, that means the device has already been set up, and that's a red flag. It doesn't happen very often, but it's happened in the past. But most of the time, 99.9% of the time, the device will come just normal without any issues. But just something to keep in mind here. Next, we had Milk and Cookies. Hey guys, how come you say you will look into my case, yet nothing ever gets done? All I want to do is return my Ledger for one that hasn't been played with. I got it from your main headquarters. It's been messed with, yet you won't help. Purchase mine from France. It's been messed with. Okay, so they need help. Yes, sorry about this, Milk and Cookies. If you do have a case number, then we can just look at it right now, and then we'll escalate that to the shipping team. Sorry, you got a device that's not working. I don't know exactly what's the issue. Maybe you can drop the issue that you're facing with the device. Maybe we can help. If not, we'll just replace the device with a new one, and apologies again for what's happening. We'll need again the 6-digit number. That's the ticket number.
And I think it's the same here for Tom Khan as well, who's mentioned that they don't get a message or anything with the Zcash issue, but that they can still see it on their mobile app just fine. And they also have, you have also contact customer service. We wanted the logs and the screenshot just to have a better look at that as well. If what I might suggest, because I think I'd be the one, I'd love to be able to take that on, have a look at that. If there's anything awry, we always want to know and try to sort that out for you as soon as we can. Especially if it's something that we're not already aware of, we'd want to try to help you with that. So Tom Khan, yeah, if you do have that with you, we'll take that from potentially the agent who might already be having a chat with you. If we already have the logs, that's great as well. Kind of the information we'd normally be going for to try to look for, and yeah, see if we can try to give you a hand from there.
Alrighty, okay, so we've got Milk and Cookies next, sharing the ticket number. So okay, that's good. I came with 2 seed phrase cards missing plus stickers, and when I plugged it, went straight to pin. My other 6 ledger didn't do that. Okay, well, so that's a major red flag. So yeah, that's the situation we described like a minute ago, where someone, so that would be a supply chain attack. So someone somehow just got a hold of the box and they set up the device, and then they returned it to you already set up. So you probably got a card with a pin, maybe like words on the recovery phrase. Sometimes they make it look like a scratch card. So yeah, definitely we'll replace the device. What would you recommend, Felix, for that situation?
Definitely, yeah, definitely. We'll go through that ticket, and in a lot of the cases, we would replace the device. But otherwise, if you did reset the device, let's say you went through Ledger Live with a new recovery phrase, so you set up as a new device as well. What could happen? I can see Lukash mention it as well. Is that yes, when you reset the device, the recovery phrase that would be created afterwards has no relation whatsoever. And in doing so, when you go through Ledger Live again, we were just talking about the genuine check. It'll make sure that the hardware integrity has not been tampered with, and it theoretically would be good to go from there. So both hardware and software, actually. So when you reset the device, you reset the device, set it up as new, and then you'll get that new recovery phrase. Has no relation to the old one whatsoever. So
what would you do with the old recovery phrase? You can just destroy it, right? Because
So you don't want to mess with that at all. You don't want to touch it. You don't want to put any funds into it whatsoever, I think is the main thing. That would generally be one of the ways that attackers would be looking to take the funds from you. You put the funds in straight away, and they already have a bot looking for it to take it out to another one.
Okay. All right, very good. And so we've got Lukash helping in the chat here. So exactly, you could restart it. Milk and cookies, sticking quite a lot of crypto on it, so I won't prefer a new one for the sake of £80 rather than lose thousands. It's
totally understandable, and that'd be the other thing that we'd be doing is just to replace the device, like we mentioned. So I wouldn't consider that that's totally understandable, 100%. Yeah,
it's a little spooky when you get your device and there's it's been tampered with. It's almost, it doesn't feel like it's your device really, and that someone has has touched it. It's not a good feeling. Yeah, for sure.
100%. All right, so next one we've got KO13. They mentioned hello GM. Question: when adding a ledger to Metamask mobile app, it asks for a QR code. I didn't have any issues setting it up on the laptop. How do you add the ledger to the Metamask mobile app? Now, this is something that we get asked a lot, and we both, I know, are really looking forward to this feature. It's not quite ready on the mobile app just yet. My understanding is that we are actually waiting for the integration side on the MetaMask side. We're really looking forward to that feature. They're currently looking at it, as far as I'm aware. So it would be something you wouldn't be able to do on your mobile app for now. If you're on iOS, it might be a good idea to actually go through. And I don't know if do you know if the Ledger extension is still, the beta sign up is still?
That's a good question.
It's a beta.
Yeah, it's still beta. I don't know if it's still going on like public, but I guess it would, because it was on the website at some point. So
yes.
Yep.
So if it's not, then good, and you can wait for that to come out. But yeah, you can use I think Wallet Connect with mobile devices can sometimes be a way you can work that as well. So might be a way, depending on what network you're using. So
yeah, we're so excited about the MetaMask integration. I gotta say, I'm excited as well. I'm gonna use the hell out of that.
I mean, it's one of the biggest third-party wallets, and they have it's a great way to use it, and you can use it for things that we might not be using, might not be able to support on Ledger Live. So that's what I use it for currently, especially with weird tokens, my own tokens especially.
Very good point. Or like batch adding accounts, like you want 10 more accounts, here you go, like you can just create them, like boom.
Exactly.
Anyway, all right guys, so good morning. I can see the chat filling up here, so that's great, guys. Don't hesitate, we're here for another 40 minutes, give or take, so just drop your question in the chat and we'll pick them up. Next one was some milk and cookies. Cheers, lads. Yeah, no worries, we'll take care of you. Thank you for coming up. We'll get you a new Nano, a safe Nano this time. Mr. Dino, is it safe to connect Ledger wallets to Uniswap? Yes, absolutely. It is.
Yeah,
It is completely safe.
was just using it today.
Nice.
But I think also as well, it should be important to note that the tokens aren't necessarily going to be always going to be safe necessarily. But it's definitely something that, to consider that just connecting it, generally speaking, is going to be okay. So, yeah.
Yeah, just make sure you use the correct URL, right? Make sure you are on the actual Uniswap app. You should be good. Hopefully one day we'll have it in Ledger Live. That would be really cool as well. Yeah, I'll let you take the next question, Felix.
Okay. What have we got here? Next one is that blah 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 blah. Oh yeah, Kellen, you only lost $950 worth, and I set everything up right when they took everything out of my account and they left 10 XRP. Why? How did they transfer that out? I'm really sorry to hear that, Kellen. I think the thing to mention would be there are basically, I always put it down to 3 specific things. All right. It's that the recovery phrase is somehow been able to be accessed by someone that was not you. So however that might have happened. The other one would be if someone had the PIN, so knows your PIN, knows you necessarily, potentially, and had physical access to the device. Even without the installation of Ledger Live, could be on another computer, could be anywhere else. And the third one, generally less common, if it's on one particular network, it might be if there was a transaction that was signed for, let's say Ethereum, for example, and all of those assets on that address were drained. It might be a transaction for that had potentially had like an approval, right? That allowed some attacker to gain access to all of those funds. Those are the only 3 ways that we could generally, that someone could generally have the assets be removed. And based on what you're saying, if it is XRP, generally speaking, the first questions that I'd be wondering would be, if you would have clicked on any links that ask for a recovery phrase, especially sometimes it happens on the XRP network in memo tags, for example. Would there be any installations of Ledger Live that might have asked for your recovery phrase? Because Ledger Live would never ask for a recovery phrase. We would never ask a support either. So that could be another social engineering thing as well. So those are not that I know exactly what's happened based on what you've mentioned so far, but those are the main things that we always go through that are basically the only ways that it could have happened without you knowing. I mean, there is the good old $5 wrench attack, but you would definitely know if that happened as well. So,
yeah, if I can add something, because and they seem to be wondering why there's only 10 XRP left in the account. The reason why is also because the XRP network forces you to reserve 10 XRP. So it's just a requirement that's network-wise. It's called the reserved requirement. That's to avoid there are a proliferation of dust accounts. So each account needs to lock 10 XRP. That you can get back, but you'll have to delete the account. We have some documentation on how to do that on the help center. Actually, you would go to support.ledger.com and look for. You could just type delete XRP accounts. I think you might find it here. If not, look for an article called XRP Toolkit. XRP Toolkit has a feature where you can delete accounts. Once you do this, you'll have to specify the account that will receive the 10 XRP. Make sure that this account is not your Ledger account since it's been compromised, but it should be like actually, you should set up a third-party wallet that's just a temporary wallet, for example, some wallet, and use that to receive your 10 XRP. Do not send that to an exchange because they might get lost because you cannot attach a memo to that transaction to delete the token. Also, by the way, you're not going to get the full 10 XRP back. You'll get only, what's that, Felix? Is it 8 XRP, I think?
I have to double check. Actually, it's not off the top of my head.
But it's not the full amount, right? It's like less
Yeah.
than 10 XRP. So you'll get like 8 to 9 XRP or something like that, maybe a little less. And that's the cost of deleting an account. And as far as I know, XRP is the only network that will let you delete accounts that way. And that's the only way to get those 10 XRP that are locked back into a different address. But again, don't provide that to your Ethereum, to an XRP account created by Ledger, because if your accounts have been compromised, then the hacker will have access to them and they will drain the fund immediately.
Yeah, Kellen did mention that they think it was through their computer, which was completely corrupted the night before. Now, I think the first thing that I think there is, if the recovery phrase, let's say, was only on the Ledger device on a piece of paper, and even if the computer was wiped or had a virus or anything like that, it shouldn't have been that. But if it was if let's say it was corrupted, you reset the computer and then you downloaded a potentially malicious version of Ledger Live, so fraudulent, and it asks you for your recovery phrase, that's definitely something that comes to mind. And it was 2 XRP. I did double check.
Okay, cool. 2 XRP.
That you would get. That is the fee. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Sorry to hear that. I mean, if you'd like, we're always really happy to work with law enforcement. So if you do reach out to them, it could be something we can try and help with if you'd like. We need to get your permission, of course, and everything like that.
All right. Next question.
Right.
AC Life in Motion.
Yeah, AC Life in Motion mentions I can only install 1 to 3 apps depending on the file size on my Ledger Nano X. The Ledger freezes, the device locks and shuts off, I'm assuming, and they're on the latest firmware in Ledger Live. I'll have to double check. If I remember correctly, there might have been something, an internal ticket that you might need to get a hold of us, and we might have to see what we can do in terms of maybe even needing to replace the device for you. So definitely get a hold of us. I mean, if you raise it right now, you can pop that in the comments too. We can try to help you out if we need to as well. That might be something you need to get a hold of us for.
Okay, next question from Acadius. Any sales coming on Ledger products? I have to confess that I'm really not in touch with the sales side of things. I don't know, Felix, if you have any insights.
No specific like discount sales or anything like that I'm aware of. No. The latest, I mean,
Valentine's.
The other thing would be Valentine's, yeah. But it's like 2 Ledger Nano X's, they're custom. I think, I'm not sure if you can still get deals on Rarible and stuff like that for the redemption NFTs, because some of them were selling for under what we retailed them for. So it might be something to keep an eye on if you're kind of sneaky. So
yeah, that's a good point. You might want to also compare like the price of the stacks right now. I've got in mind the stacks NFT that's trading on the secondary markets. It's possible that trades actually under the retail price. So you might want to. There might be some arbitrage that you can do here. If you really want to get in touch of like sales, what's going on the sales side, then just follow the main accounts. So that's @Ledger on Twitter. Again, that's @Ledger. By the way, we are @Ledger support, Ledger_support. If you go on Twitter, just be careful though. It's a den of thieves. There is tons of fake accounts and fake Ledger employees that will try to get your recovery phrase and trick you into, signing, tricking you into disclosing your recovery phrase. So be careful. Ledger will never DM you. So it's kind of a dangerous place, Twitter, these days.
Yeah. All right. Next question yes. Can you add any other hot wallets to MetaMask? And that is definitely something you can do. I do it regularly. Not necessarily a recommended practice, but I sometimes generate vanity addresses just for fun, doing like random transactions. So you can import private keys. I don't know though if you can import another set of 12 words or anything like that, but I know that obviously when you set up your MetaMask, you can set your own 12 or 24 word recovery phrase with MetaMask, if I remember correctly. So private keys, definitely for sure. But if you mean, let's say, other wallets like Trust, so that you can manage Bitcoin or something like that, that wouldn't be possible. So, I mean, there's a couple of things that we might want to take into account there.
Okay. Tom Can says, could you take a look at my case? I've sent the reference number. I do not see it in the chat though, Tom Can. I don't know, Felix, if you can see it. I don't think. Sometimes the chat will automatically like remove messages if it thinks it's spam. So you might want to just drop the numbers, just don't add anything, no links, no URLs, no special characters, just the 6 digits, and just drop that in the chat, Tom Can, if you're still here. And yeah, we'll take a look at the ticket after the AMA, and we'll get back to you, probably tomorrow morning, CT time, because we're based in Paris here. Yep.
All right, what have we got next? Morpheus, we have a problem after updating the micro 1.2 with Bluetooth. Does not connect to the phone, and the phone does not see the iPhone 11. It's a pity that it has not been solved. I'd want to double check what device that you have in particular. So two things. I think Charles mentioned it down below as well. What device that you have in particular. I'm assuming it's the Ledger Nano X, as well as what phone that you have. So Android, iPhone, what model. The reason for that being that 1.2 is unless it's a typo, 1.2 is definitely one of the older versions of the Ledger firmware. But if it is 2.1 for the Ledger Nano X, that would be the latest version. If you're using something like iPhone, there is a potential workaround. You have the iPhone, it's supposed to be you attempt to connect and you step out of that. Is that right? I got to double check the exact wording myself.
So yeah, like I actually recorded a tutorial yesterday on how to troubleshoot Bluetooth issues on iPhone. Like the way I do it personally is like I reset absolutely everything. So I reset the pairings on the device. I forget the device in the iPhone. You go into the Bluetooth settings, and your device will be listed. You tap the device and then you forget it. Then you also remove the device on the app as well, and you make sure that Bluetooth is enabled. And so if you do all of that, like you start from scratch basically, and that should work. But yeah, Felix, go for it.
Yeah, so the workaround would be when you're in the My Ledger tab. So this is if all of those troubleshooting steps don't work. You would go to the My Ledger tab, you would pair it, go to pair with Bluetooth. This would open the Bluetooth scanning screen, so you wouldn't do anything there, and you jump back to My Ledger and then try to connect to the device again. Just as a quick workaround for now, so that you can get you guys connected, and then I know the guys are hard at work trying to solve that issue as well.
Perfect. And Morpheus, if that can wait a few days, like we do have a tutorial coming up on the YouTube channel. So yeah, that should land Monday or Tuesday next week. Cool. Next, we've got Bill33. So I finally connected my Ledger to MetaMask by switching browsers. The one thing that I didn't try. Thanks. Oh, great. Well, so yeah, that's a very good point. Like if you guys are struggling to connect MetaMask to your Ledger device, sometimes just switching browsers work like a charm. Personally, I like to use Firefox, although it has this little pop-up thing every single time you want to connect it. It's quite annoying. By the way, if you see this on Firefox, this pop-up that just keeps popping like on your screen, like if it was crazy, just don't close it. It's normal. It's just the process. So just wait until it disappears. And other than that, I find that Firefox just works super well. But personal preference.
We've had this conversation, haven't we? I'm a Chrome guy myself. All right, next question. Yes, I did everything that was explained in the manual for 1.2. Again, not sure if it's a typo. And nothing works, but does not work on the second phone as well. I think you mentioned the iPhone 11 16.2 iOS as well down below. give that troubleshooting steps a try. If not, go through to the Bluetooth scanning screen from MyLedger and then pop back onto the MyLedger screen, and that should be a workaround for now. And as Dan mentioned, we've got that video as well. I think if we pop past, next one would be Ron Hart as well. I checked I've tried to check my recovery phrase and ended up resetting to a new recovery phrase. So I think we can riff on this a little bit, because there is a recovery check application that you can use where you'd input the recovery phrase. Now, it sounds scary, but you'd only be inputting it into the device itself. So you know that you're not putting it into like something fraudulent in particular. So that will tell you, yes, it is correct, or no, it is not correct as a recovery phrase. And that should be able to allow you to check your device. Now, being that you've reset the Ledger device in particular, what you would want to do is just restore that from an existing recovery phrase. I'd like to... Now, this should be under the hope that the recovery phrase that you'd written down is correct, and you can pop that in straight away. If it was written incorrectly, we wouldn't be able to let you know what that was. We wouldn't know it as well. And it might be something that you'd have lost access to. But that hopefully shouldn't be the case. Hopefully you should write it down. Should have been written down correctly. Otherwise, you can always check on the BIP39 list if all the words are on there as well, and make sure they are 24 words as well, not 18 or 12.
I find that's a situation where people commonly like start generating more and more recovery phrases because they miss the option to restore the phrase instead of creating a new one. So they end up with like 3 different phrases, and they don't know which one is securing their funds. So Ron, like, it's probably worth like keeping track of which phrase was in the device before it got reset, because if you accidentally like created a new recovery phrase, now the private keys inside the device are different, right? They are attached to this recovery phrase. Each recovery phrase secures a different set of private keys, and so just make sure when you try to access accounts that already exist on Ledger Live, for example, make sure that you have the correct recovery phrase inside the device. Otherwise, you won't be able to access those accounts, and you'll get a that says something is wrong recovery phrase or passphrase. And a lot of people, especially new users, not saying a new user, but new users get very confused by that. Next we have Charles White. Shout out to Charles White in the chat from the US team. Hi, Charles. Good morning.
Hello. All right. We've got a couple of shout outs as well. KO13, love the freedom and peace of mind of using a ledger gives you. Thank you. No, thank you. But Yvonne Stokes, they mention, how do NFTs appear in your Ledger wallet? Mine appeared under Polygon. I did not purchase them. This is something that's been happening a lot recently. It happens with my own accounts as well. So it's not just necessarily something that are happening to Ledger customers, or it's pretty much happening to anyone on the Polygon network when you have some kind of activity. They're basically trying to induce you to interact with these NFTs. So I think CryptoHound mentioned it as well. Don't touch it, and that's what we'd suggest as well. Within Ledger Live, you can hide the NFTs, so that's perfectly normal. You're not actually interacting with these NFTs on chain. Basically, if you send them to another address, for example, or anything like that, it might call a function that allows them to take your assets. So it's definitely something that you should worry about if you do interact with them. If you don't, you're perfectly fine and it's perfectly safe. Now, even if it looks like they're coming out of your account, that is something that can be quite scary. And the reason that is possible is that NFTs, if you're not already aware, are just basically smart contracts that are actually on the blockchain. And if someone else already has, let's call it admin access, they're the ones that can send it, receive it, move it, and looks like the transfer from address. So the from address is you, or the to address is you, for example. So just to give you a bit of an idea. So don't interact with them, just hide them, and you'll be okay from there.
Perfect. Another word for it is address poisoning. That's the generic word for this type of scam. I just dropped a link to an article that explains address poisoning and how to protect yourself against it, to expand on what Felix was saying. And I think Crypto Hound in the chat was also saying it's dust, do not touch it. So that's the correct advice. Do not touch it. You can hide it. Do not try to interact with it. That's the thing. But it's not dangerous, right? As long as you don't touch it, it's not gonna compromise your account. We've got Kellen. Okay, thanks, Kellen. Hopefully that was useful. We'll get in touch. Milk and Cookies. Back to a question. With a question. Got to go. Thanks for your time, lads. Very much appreciated. Have a good day. Yeah, thank you. Have a good day as well. It's always great to have you guys like constantly show up to those live, and I really enjoy providing support that way. I think it's just much faster, much better for you guys, and yeah, and you get to see us. Okay, Felix, I'll let you take the next question. Well,
Sorry,
I can take it if you want.
No, I was just checking some tickets. It's okay. We've got Bright Ray FX, and please, can I save more than 3 coins on a Ledger Nano S Plus? And the answer to that would be yes, you definitely can. The coins themselves are not actually on the Ledger device, if you're not already aware. The only thing that's on your Ledger device is the recovery phrase, essentially your private keys. And from those private keys, you can derive as many addresses, basically, or accounts as you can. As you want. So more than 3 coins, that's definitely for sure. I definitely have more than that on my Ledger Nano S Plus personally. So if you're talking about the applications, they should also be able to install more than that as well. So let's say you have a Bitcoin app, you have an Ethereum app, and you have a Tron app and a Cardano app, and you might manage a couple of tokens on the Ethereum chain. You might manage a couple of tokens on Tron and Cardano as well, depending on what you prefer. So definitely something you can do.
All right. Next, we've got Yvonne. Can you take profit on Ledger Nano? Yes, the answer is yes. You can sell directly from your account, but the sell options are currently quite limited. The main one would be via Coinify, but you have to sell Bitcoin. So Bitcoin is the only sell option with Coinify. A second option would be if you go into the Discover section in Ledger Live. There is an app called Bitey, B-I-T-Y. That one will sell Ethereum, but it's only in euros and Swiss francs, unfortunately. That's really something that we need to get better at, like offering off-ramps. Of course, you always have the option to move your coins back to an exchange, sell on the exchange, and then back to your bank accounts. That's also, that's always an option.
I think I always mention if you're in Australia, there's a thing called Living with Satoshi. I lived on it for a while. No like relation whatsoever, but I always give them a shout out because they helped me live for a very long time. Kind of like Bitrefill, which is actually within the Discover section. If you're looking to purchase certain items, definitely something to consider as well as a kind of alternative to a full off ramp as well. All right, so Bill 33. They mention your Songbird RPC address on Metamask doesn't work anymore. Is there something that you can do about it? I'm assuming that you mean the RPC server that you're using. There's definitely there should be rather alternatives if you're using that, but Songbird. Let me double check. I was going to suggest a chain list, but I wanted to make sure that it was on there. Essentially, within MetaMask, there's a service called Chainlist that you can use to add EVM chains. I just wanted to double check for Songbird in particular because it doesn't have. Oops, I am a bad typer. Songbird Canary Network. That should be it. Chain ID 19, and you should be able to use chainlist.info to be able to add those accounts. And there are some alternatives as well. So you can potentially find another RPC address that you can use for managing it with Songbird. Hopefully that helps.
Excellent. I'll just drop the link to the Chainlist article for you, Bill. It's in the chat. Next, we've got Philip Mazzola. How to unbound DOT as was not getting rewards. Is Ledger going to support staking on Ledger Live? The process for DOT is extremely difficult. Yes, I do agree that DOT is difficult, not because of Ledger Live necessarily, but it's just how the network requirements around staking are quite difficult. So currently, if you don't have over, I would say 300 dots, probably more than that now, you might not get rewards at all. You have to do quite a bit of research to make sure that you elect validators that are actually active. And also, like, even if you are nominating to validator that's active, if you're not if that validator is what we call oversubscribed, so too many people are nominating them, then they will only reward the top 256 backers. So if you're not part of that bag, then you will not get rewards. So yeah, DOT, definitely not the easiest staking option. Now, that being said, there is plenty of staking options within Ledger Live. We've got ETH staking via Lido, via Keelan. We have Cosmos, Solana, Atom. Well, that's the same thing, Cosmos, Atom. We've got plenty of options. I'll drop an article with the list of all different staking options in Ledger Live for you. I would personally recommend like something easy to stake would be Atom or Solana. Those are like very easy, very straightforward. ETH as well via Lido, also quite easy.
Right. Yvonne comes back and mentions you've already touched the NFTs that were dropped into your ledger because they didn't know what to do, didn't know not to do that. So now what? So I think the first thing would be to, I think being with the tone of what you're mentioning, it doesn't sound like there's any assets lots, which is good, but it's always good to double check. The first thing I do is I'm actually going to put a link in the article about token approvals. This is probably one of the big things with regards to NFTs that would have been airdropped. Now, with regards to that, essentially, it's just to make sure that an NFT when you send an NFT, it could run some arbitrary code. And the reason that we say not to touch it is that arbitrary code could have the approved function. Now, the link that I sent you would have been going through how to revoke those approvals in particular. So you can say, hey, I don't want, sometimes let's say Uniswap needs to get permission to use your USDC, you approve it, and you might go through that process for a number of different websites. Basically, these NFTs could potentially use the same way to actually try to pull your funds, right? So you can use that to double check, first of all, and just to make sure. But I think what I'd like to call the nuclear option would be to reset, to get all your assets onto another temporary wallet, and then reset your ledger device and get a new recovery phrase and therefore new addresses to put your stuff back in as well. That's probably the one that would be the most tedious and takes a lot of gas, and you have to pay a lot of money to do so. But if you're really unsure, that's probably the most safest way. If you're unsure at all, though, definitely hit us up. We can potentially have a look at it for you and be like, hey, we can see some weird things going on with the account, we can't, that kind of thing. Generally speaking, if you checked on the Block Explorer and nothing seems to have happened, I imagine you'd be okay, but I don't want to give you any false hope or anything. So definitely check with the token approvals and everything like that if you want to.
All right. So next question was actually from Merrick, but it was answered by Charles. So Charles, thanks again for helping in the chat here. Much appreciated, mate. Next one, Brazen OFKP. Is there a way to see tokens that you've opened up a hot wallet with the Ledger hardware but not supported on Ledger itself? No, unfortunately, there is. Yeah, typically Ledger Live supports less tokens than those third-party wallets that are specialized with any particular, network. That being said, you can request new tokens. We list more tokens with every new version of Ledger Live, so feel free to tell us like which tokens you'd like listed, and we can escalate that information. That being said, if using third-party wallets is generally safe. It's always safe, to be honest. It's part of the Ledger experience. I would say, before I worked at Ledger, I was a Ledger user. I was using a Nano S. That was a while ago, and I was using MetaMask all the time. So I got used to using those third-party applications. Never had any issue. As long as you don't type your 24 recovery phrases anywhere, then you'll be fine. So yeah, I know it's frustrating to not have everything in Ledger Live, but eventually everything will be in Ledger Live. But for now, third-party wallets are safe options. Thinking of MetaMask and things like that.
Right. So next question comes from Ibra. They mentioned, why is swapping tokens through Ledger so expensive? I would say that it's definitely something that depends on the pair that you're swapping with, the service provider that you're doing so with as well. I see other question there as well, Ibra, so I'll get to that in a second. But generally speaking, it would depend on the token, especially those with really low liquidity. So let's say it's a token with a market cap of 5 million, would have a much bigger spread than you would with something like Ether BTC, for example. But it doesn't mean that you can't shop around. And it gets to the next point as well. You can use an exchange as well. And I know you mentioned the next question being, when can we sell ETH directly to pounds to your banks without having to move it to an exchange? So first thing would be, that would be something your bank would have to do, right? So I think I definitely wish that'd be great. It'd be a reason for me to move to London or it'd be a big reason. But I think the thing is, the banks would have to support it. I think I mentioned a service in Australia that supported something similar, where you were able to deposit into your account. But it's being that traditional banking systems aren't built with cryptocurrency, it's something they have to implement. That's why we do have exchanges. I think of it in the same way that you wouldn't be able to deposit a stock directly into your bank account. You'd have to go to an exchange, deposit it, or transfer it over, sell it, and then move that into the bank account as well. So it is how the system works at the moment. In the future, I'd love to see that happen. But yeah, tell the bank they. But I know that also. What HSBC at least I think is based in, or I'm just trying to think of some UK banks that might have been quite harsh on crypto as well, like you can't purchase crypto, things like that. So they're always fighting from their side as well to try and keep their business share. So
of course, they won't go down without a fight, and but hopefully it will be some sort of there won't be a war. It will be just like slow integration of blockchain ledgers into banking system. That's
positive.
Yeah, positive outcome. Yeah, working together is always easier. Next was El Todd Gamer. So I bought a Nano X from Amazon Spain. I saw a lot of people saying that it's not safe. Why do people say it's not safe? And is it safe? Thanks. Yes, generally buying from Amazon or a reseller is completely safe because they get the Ledger device from us. So there's no difference between their Ledger device and the Ledger device you can get from the Ledger website. Now, the reason why some people say it's not safe is because there's been instances of what we call supply chain attack, where somehow someone gets a hold of the package before the Ledger device reaches you, set up the device, replace the blank recovery sheet with a recovery phrase with words on it, and try to trick you into sending funds into a preset Ledger device. Now, it's happened a few times, so I think people got a bit traumatized by it, but realistically, 99.9% of the time, you'll be fine. That being said, we have a video on this very topic called How Can I Make Sure That my new Ledger device is safe to use? You can check that out. It's on the YouTube channel.
All right. So next question comes from a Wild Bill 419. They mention, why does IOTX not show a dollar value in Ledger Live? So the first thing that I think of there is, I was just double checking our assets list, basically the list of assets that we'd be showing or that we'd support. and it is something that we'd show the dollar value for on specific networks. So I double checked the Binance Peg one did not show a dollar value. And there was some other ones that potentially didn't. So it would be prudent just to double check which network your IOTX would be on. And if that's the case, it would be that we specifically have hidden the dollar value for potentially a multitude of reasons, being that, it might be since we use another backend to show the dollar value, then it'd be maybe that we can't show the dollar value because there's no corresponding contract, for example. But let's say if I saw that it was on the Polygon network that we should be showing the dollar value, and if you've withdrawn it on Polygon and it's not showing, definitely something to get a hold of us for. We just want to raise that with our devs just to make sure that should be all showing correctly. But yes, if it isn't showing, it might be something that we have specifically not elected not to show, but it doesn't mean that it affects the actual value of your assets necessarily, just that we might not be wanting to show it for a number of reasons.
Okay, dope. Next, we've got the 228. When will the Ledger Nano X be compatible with Metamask Mobile? Question that we get a lot. The answer is we don't know exactly, but it should be coming this year, I think. But yeah, just stay tuned.
Stay tuned, yeah. Wild Bill 419 also mentions that they love staking Atom in Ledger Life. That rocks. Yes, it does indeed. And also, nice to hear from you guys. Hopefully that did help. I remember answering your question as well. And then Wild Bill again mentioning that they love, and Charles mentioning that they love staking, both Tezos and Atom. There's a lot of staking going on. So yeah, as there should.
Staking is great.
Yeah.
Staking is great.
Samira did have a good question though, that you wanted to know if you dropped your device somewhere and if you have the recovery phrase, can you set up a new device again? And the answer would be yes, but I wouldn't use the words set up a new device because it does trip up some people. I know you mentioned that you are new. Basically, what would happen is that you would, if you had another device, for example, you would set it as restore from an existing recovery phrase, being that you have an existing recovery phrase. And from that recovery phrase, you can therefore access those same accounts. It deterministically accesses those same addresses. So when you go get a new device, for example, if you lost it, let's say, you instead of going through the setup as new, which you would have done before, you just scroll one past and it will say restore from existing. I might even pop the Help Center article in the chat as well, just so you get a better idea of what that would look like. So I'll add you for that one too.
Awesome. Next, we've got L Todd Gamer. Question number 2. Why do you have to create Hedera accounts using Hashpack? Is this a temporary solution? Yes, it is a temporary solution. Eventually, we want to bring everything into Ledger Live. The reason why you have to use Hashpack right now is because the Hedera network is permission in a way. There are only a few services that are authorized to onboard new accounts. Hashpack is one of them, but Ledger is not one of them yet. That's why we have that, you have to go through Hashpack first to get your account ID, and then you can import this into your Ledger, into Ledger Live, and see that account into Ledger Live. By the way, you can also stake from your Ledger device using Hashpack. There is an article in the Help Center that describes how to do it. But again, yeah, that's something that we want to bring into Ledger Live eventually. But it's quite a difficult feature to implement. So yeah, appreciate your patience. Yep.
All right. So just quickly, because I did see Wild Bill did answer the question. You have IOTX in your Ethereum account. So yes, that is one of the networks that it is disabled for. So, I mean, up to you what you'd want to do. It doesn't affect the value. You can either keep it on Ethereum. You can move it over to Polygon, which is the one that they should have the value for, the counter values for. Otherwise, yeah, up to you. We do have a couple of thank yous from Tom Khan. We have Charles again asking those questions. So love the work. Probably should be I don't know. It's pretty early, but still very early for you. Samira, yes. Hopefully that did answer your question. And David Cobb, you did ask when will Chia XCH be supported. I do see another question when would what was the other one? When will XDC be added as well? And with all the XDC and Chia, all of those questions about when, unfortunately, we don't have a specific time frame. We do get a lot of the questions about if there could be, any more specific time frames, but we wouldn't want to get your hopes up, and we just want to make sure that we have the best experience when you guys do jump in. So yeah. I wouldn't be able to say anything, unfortunately, but definitely we'll continue to pass on the feedback with Chia and with XDC as well, specifically within Ledger Live.
Yep.
But just to mention XDC, you can manage it with third-party wallets, but I'm assuming X601D. I'm assuming you do. You might know that. I think that's based on how you asked the question.
All right, and that might be the last question for today. Mediaticam. Can I sign a transaction if I don't have a PC with my Ledger Nano S Plus? Yeah, I mean, you can if you have a mobile and the Ledger Live app connected to your device. Generally, you need something else to help your device. You need a device to help your Ledger device to create a transaction. The Ledger device is just here to protect the private keys and create transaction, but you need some sort of device, so PC or mobile phone, to broadcast the transaction to the network. Maybe in the future we'll have everything within a single device, but for now this is like the security architecture of our devices. So yeah. So again, you need mobile or PC. Can be Ledger Live, can be a third-party wallet as well. Those are safe to use. But again, guys, like don't type your 24-hour recovery phrase into any computer app, third-party wallet. The scammers will try to get your 24-hour recovery phrase because that's the easiest way they can get your funds. If they get your phrase, they'll be able to drain your funds immediately. They don't even need your device, so just keep that in mind. Yeah. And I think we cleared the backlog, Felix. We did pretty well today.
Yeah, I didn't even realize it's been an hour, so yeah.
Yeah, time flies. Yeah, it's always a good time. Guys, thank you so much. It's always a pleasure to have you in those chats. And yeah, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do so and share the channel as well with people that might need this advice and have quick questions. And if they want to talk to us directly, that's, first of all, we love doing this. Second of all, it's just a better way to get support because you get instant answers to your questions, and yeah, it's just fast. So we do those streams every single day. So tomorrow we'll be on Twitter at 5 p.m. CT, but we'll be back. So Felix will be back on Monday, right, Felix?
Monday and Tuesday, both different times. 4 p.m. on Monday, 5 p.m. CET. So that's 1+ for GMT for both AMA and onboarding.
Perfect. So guys, we look forward to see you there. And yeah, take care. Have a good weekend. We'll see you on Twitter if you're on Twitter tomorrow. If not, take care and don't share your 24-hour recovery phrase.
Don't sign any transactions you don't trust. Thanks, guys.
See ya. Bye.
Peace.